I never expected a billionaire to change my life after watching my daughter dance. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The way my heart raced, the way the room felt like it was closing in on me. The theater was packed, the lights dimmed, and the music enveloped us like a fog. My daughter, Lily, took the stage, the spotlight kissing her like an old friend. She danced with a passion that stole the breath from my lungs. Every leap, every spin, vibrant and alive, filled me with hope. Yet underneath that hope, shadows stirred that I could feel the weight of my worries pressing against my chest, bills piling up, late notices haunting me like ghosts. Alone in a crowd, my trembling hands clutched the edge of my seat. I looked around at the beautiful faces, families who didn't have to scrape by, who didn't know the bitter taste of desperation. That night was supposed to be magical, a night where dreams takes flight. Instead, it felt like it could be my last chance to hold on. As the final note echoed, a silence fell like a heavy curtain. Applause erupted, high-pitched and excited. But my own heart was heavy. Amid the cheers, a figure emerged from the shadows. He was tall, dressed in a tailored suit that screamed power and privilege. The kind of man who had never known what it meant to be afraid of tomorrow. A billionaire, as I later learned that he watched Lily like she was the only light in a world of darkness. I could see the interest in his eyes, a spark of something deeper. Then suddenly, he made his way toward her, weaving through the throngs of people. My breath caught. Was he going to offer her a contract? A scholarship? Or was it something more sinister? With each step he took, I felt my heart beat faster, a pulsing drum of anxiety creeping through my veins. The applause crescendoed, then hushed, as if the room held its breath with me. What was about to change in our lives? What was this man ready to offer, and what price would we pay? Was I ready for whatever world he might throw our way? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the applause faded and the night seeped into a nervous anticipation, I could no longer ignore the reality that lay before us. The billionaire, his name was Ethan, had just stepped into our world, a world fraught with uncertainty and a dwindling light of hope. He approached Lily with a measured grace, his demeanor calm yet charged with an electric intensity that made my skin prickle. I held my breath, helpless against the pull of curiosity and dread. Was this the moment that could lift us from the ashes of our struggles, or would it entangle us deeper in unknown complexities? Your performance was astonishing, Ethan said, his voice smooth and confident, a stark contrast to the inner chaos swirling within me. He knelt down, bringing himself to her level, and in those fleeting moments, I saw something I had never expected, a flicker of admiration in his eyes. My heart ached. Was this admiration for my daughter's talent, or was it tethered to something far more wanting? Lily, bless her bright spirit, smiled shyly, her cheeks flushed with the warmth of her triumph. Thank you, she replied softly, the words tumbling out like butterflies in the spring air. My heart swelled with pride, then quickly sank again under the weight of my worries. I stepped closer, anxiety bubbling beneath my skin. Can I help you? I managed to ask, my voice steadier than I felt. Lily has rehearsal tomorrow. We should actually, Ethan interrupted gently, I was hoping I could speak with both of you. In private. The insistence in his voice turned my stomach, while the hope glimmering in Lily's eyes made me want to both scold him and thank him. We followed him to a quieter corner of the theater, the distant echoes of laughter and music now mere whispers. As the world continued to turn blissfully around us, my heart sank deeper into the ground, suffocated by the seeds of doubt sprouting rapidly in my mind. What could a man like him want with us? Was this to be a kindness or a veiled bargaining? I own a dance studio, he began, leaning against the wall, radiating a confidence that both enthralled and irritated me. "I've been looking for fresh talent, someone who could help breathe life into my new project. And I see that talent in your daughter." Lily's eyes sparkled. "You want me to dance?" I could hardly breathe, my instincts screaming to pull her away, to protect her from unknown intentions. Dance was an escape for her, a passion that was supposed to uplift, not burden her with expectations or demands from a world I did not trust. "Ethan, I appreciate the offer, but I understand your hesitations." He spoke over me, his gaze steady and sincere. "I want only to help. I believe she could go far, and I can provide opportunities, lessons, performances, some exposure, a chance for her to truly shine." Lily was practically vibrating with excitement, yet I could feel the cool gust of reality blowing through my thoughts like a tempest. Opportunities didn't always come with good intentions. They didn't account for the hidden costs that often followed. "What would you want in return?" I asked, fearing the answer but needing to know. He met my concerns with openness. "Nothing you wouldn't already be giving. Just commitment. Time. I can help support you both financially, and all I ask is that you don't shy away from her talent. She deserves to fly.as." The words tumbled from his lips. I could see the paradox playing out. The very thing that might save us, also threatened to confine us. I glanced at Lily, whose eyes danced with visions of stages and audiences. She was so innocent, so unaware of how overwhelming this moment could be. But how could I dampen her spirit? Before I could respond, an abrupt flicker caught my attention. At the rear of the theater stood a woman, poised and watchful. The familiar arrogance in her expression sent a chill down my spine. It was Vanessa, a figure from Ethan's world I had heard whispers about, a rival in both business and passion. Her presence turned the anticipation into something heavier. Ethan's gaze followed mine, and something shifted in the air. A storm of emotions rippled through me, uncertainty bearing weight on my shoulders. Would Lily's talent keep her safe in a world filled with ruthless ambition? Or would she become yet another pawn in a game I could not hope to understand? Panic eroded my confidence, and though I wanted to protect my daughter, I could not deny the spark within her. Would I stand against the currents that threatened to sweep us away, or would I risk everything to allow her to fly? Before I could respond, the world shifted. A gamey heart thundered as Vanessa stepped forward, her smile sharp as glass. "Ethan, love, what are you doing with this little dancer?" The air crackled as the implications hung between us. I was no longer just an observer in this scene, I was flipped into a web of conflict that I couldn't quite unravel. With every step, the stakes grew higher, the paths before us narrowing into an unknown that darkened with each beat of my fragile heart. The silence that enveloped us seemed to stretch and pull, taut as a tightly wound string on a violin just before it plays. Vanessa's presence invaded our small sanctum, suffocating any flicker of hope that dared to rise. She was a power player in Ethan's world, a reminder of everything we might never be. I measured my breaths, trying to anchor myself, all the while pulling Lily closer to my side. "Just admiring the talent," Ethan replied, injecting a measured calm into his voice. But I could see the tension in his jaw, the slight tightening of his shoulders. I envied his grace under pressure, feeling the urge to shield Lily from this unfolding scrutiny. "Talent?" Vanessa echoed with a mockingly sweet inflection. "Or is it the potential for profit? You know, Ethan, not everyone in this industry is as generous as they claim." Her eyes flicked over to Lily, and for a terrifying moment, I saw the shadows of doubt take shape over my daughter's face. "That I trust your judgment, Vanessa," Ethan said, his gaze unwavering. He remained unfazed by her calculated tones, and yet I felt a tremor of concern course through me. "But this isn't about profit. This is about nurturing real artistry. Is it?" She retorted, folding her arms and leaning back as if to examine us like we were pieces on a chessboard. "Or is it ego that drives you? Sometimes, the ones that shine too brightly are the first to burn out." That I clutched Lily's hand tighter, feeling the urgency to pull her away from the negativity pooling around us. This was supposed to be a moment of validation for her, not a breeding ground for second-guessing. "We should really be going," I said softly, my tone reflecting the urgency brewing within me. But Lilia, lovely naive flame, stood resolutely, catching me off guard. "No. I want to hear what he has to say," she declared, her eyes wide and defiant. I could see the fire igniting in her spirit, but I felt the cold of fear snaking its way through my chest. "She didn't know what she was asking for." "Your mother's right," Ethan interjected, glancing at her with compounded admiration and concern. "You can't rush into these things, Lily. It's a big decision." For a fleeting moment, my heart soared. There was a flicker of understanding shared between them, a mutual respect, perhaps. But then Vanessa chimed in softly, "Ethan has a busy schedule, darling. Wouldn't it be better to let him go and enjoy the night instead? Why are you so interested in what happens to her?" "It's not like you're her guardian," I snapped before I could filter my thoughts. Anger surged through me, mixing fear with the urge to defend the delicate hope I had nurtured for Lily. "Well, we should all have our interests, don't you think?" she replied silkily, biting into the words. "After all, talent is more valuable than gold unless you're just a stepping stone to what lies above." The air grew thick with unspoken tension, and I found myself stumbling as I tried to keep Lily grounded. "Ethan, can we continue this another time?" He looked between us, the pained warmth of his gaze resting on Lily's hopeful face, then shifted back to Vanessa with a momentary flicker of frustration. It was as though he were wrestling with an internal battle. "No. We need to have this conversation. This is about the future." "Then let's not involve ourselves in petty games you all seem so fond of," Vanessa interjected, her voice turning sharper. "Lily deserves better than this circus." I felt the hot blush spread across my cheeks, humiliation swirling in a whirlpool of self-doubt. Was I truly advocating for my daughter amid this chaos? Surely, I could do better to protect her. There it was, a haunting glimpse of reality emerging like a dark shadow from the precipice. To accept Ethan's help meant risking everything for Lily. But to turn away, could I do that without her resentment festering beneath the surface? "Lily, let's go home," I pleaded softly, conflict twisting in my gut, but something had shifted, a resolute determination glimmered in her eyes. "No, Mom. I want to pursue this. I should have the chance." The pang of my heart tore up the fabric of decision. As if the universe itself conspired to blur the boundaries of my control, the moment of reckoning had arrived. Before I could respond, a sudden slip in time took place. A gasp rang out from the entrance of the theater. "Lily." A familiar voice echoed through the crowd, filled with desperation. I turned sharply as a figure burst through, a tangled mess of fear and urgency marking their every move. It was Sarah, my best friend. Her eyes locked onto Goose, my daughter's childhood companion, who had tumbled into danger moments before. "They found him. He's in trouble." In that beat of chaos, every ear in the vicinity perked up while the room shifted back to the present, full of uncertainty, fraught promises, and the weight of looming decisions. My heart raced as the implications unfurled like ink spreading across water. Lily's determination wavered momentarily, and all of my protective instincts surged back, screaming that danger didn't wear one disguise alone. I wanted freedom for her, yet every pathway ahead seemed steeped in unresolved shadows. As I took a step toward the chaos, I felt helpless against the imminent storm brewing within our lives. And there, once again, I stood at the precipice, caught between the thrust of a dream and the gravity of survival, the eternal questions echoing louder. How far would I go to protect her, and what would happen once the choices took flight? The whisper of chaos filled the theater, taking over every corner of the room. People rushed to reposition themselves, eyes darting from Sarah's frantic urgency to the figure of Goose, vulnerable and shaken. My mind screamed at me to stay grounded, but my feet refused to be anchored, moved instead by the primal instinct to shield Lily from whatever storm raged outside our limited cocoon of artistry. "Goose!" Lily called out, her voice a mix of concern and surprise. In an instant, she broke free from my side and dashed toward him, the innocence of childhood colliding with the harsh reality of danger. I watched helplessly as she reached for her friend, who still looked caught in some dark cloud of apprehension. "Lily, wait." I tried to call out, but my voice felt feeble against the rising tide of tension. Sarah was closer now, her eyes wide, reflecting fear but also a peppering of determination that seemed to light a fire in those around us. He's hurt. We need to. Without thinking, I surged forward, grabbing Lily's hand before she could touch Goose. You can't. We don't know what happened. But Goose was shaking his head, desperately trying to catch his breath. It's not what you think. What do you mean it's not what we think? I interrupted, panic sharpening my words. I was still trying to wrap my mind around this sudden shift in reality, yet all I could see was the look in Lily's eyes as she searched for reassurance and understanding. Mom, please. She pleaded. In that moment, an unfamiliar bitterness rose within me, threatening to spill over. Was she truly willing to take on someone else's burden as her own? You don't understand, Lily. This isn't just about you now. This is serious. I felt Ethan approaching, his presence grounding yet filled with unvoiced concern. Let her go to him, Mary, he murmured, his voice steady and calm when mine faltered. If he's in trouble, they need each other right now. The insistence in his tone seemed to ignite a flicker of hope in my darkening heart, making me wonder if maybe letting go could mean embracing a different kind of safety. And despite everything, an unwelcome part of me hesitated. What if emerging from the shadows and stepping forward meant potential risks I had no control over? Sarah reached Goose first, kneeling beside him, her voice low and soothing yet imbued with urgency. What happened? They cornered me, and Goose stammered, fear creeping back into his eyes. I didn't even see them coming. I thought I could get away, but they grabbed me out of nowhere. The words clawed at my chest, the night unraveling with unforeseen danger. I forced myself to breathe, weighing my presence as both a comfort and a protector. Why didn't you tell us? I pressed, feeling the weight of responsibility settle heavily upon me. Because I thought it was over. Goose exclaimed, the panic flaring at the edges of his voice. I thought I'd get in trouble. I just wanted to come see the show, but breathe, Goose, Sarah reassured him, her fingers brushing gently across his brow. We're here now. Just breathe. Lily stood frozen beside him, her small face a canvas of confusion and courage. But why didn't you call? Why didn't you just run? Before Goose could respond, the atmosphere shifted again. A figure emerged from the back of the crowd, shoving through people, drawn by the mounting anxiety. My heart sank when I recognized him. Tommy, one of Goose's estranged older brothers, infamous for his temper and troubled affiliations. His face was marred by rage, a contrast to the crowd's confusion. Get away from him. Tommy barked, glaring at us as though we were the culprits. Tommy, wait. I urged, stepping between him and Goose instinctively. This isn't what you think, he needs help. I don't care about that, he snapped back, the wild fight in his eyes suggesting his emotions were already tumbling toward violence. You think you can play the hero? You have no idea what he's tangled in. Lily clutched my arm, her breaths growing quicker. As I looked back at her, I had already dragged her into an unforeseen mess. It's okay, Lily, I whispered, though the words felt hollow. Get away, Tommy repeated, his voice a growl. Unbeknownst to me, he had stepped into a dark threshold of chaos, and I realized how unprepared we were for the reality we had now stumbled into. Every protective fiber in me urged to shield my daughter as fear welled like waves crashing against the rocks, but just as the air filled with the impending promise of violence, something unexpected happened. A momentary distract-Iona switch flicked in the audience, where murmurs rose as a figure burst through, drawing everyone's attention. Ethan stepped forward, positioning himself between Tommy and Goose protectively, asserting authority without a hint of aggression. This isn't the way, Tommy. Your brother needs you, not more threats. His tenderness toward Goose, his refusal to step back even in face of danger, made me feel both pride and an ache of uncertainty at the path ahead. Suddenly, the voices faded into a hum, and I was again at that tipping point, the world dimming into the background as I focused on Lily's face, etched with confusion and fear. Her spirit hidden beneath all that determination now unfurled into a delicate vulnerability. Mom? She asked tentatively, the word breaking through the murky chaos enveloping us. In that pause, I felt a familiar tug at my heart, a resolve unearthing itself beside the fear. I couldn't determine whether it was the air of unpredictability or the obligation to protect her from influences both close and far. Whatever happens, we'll find our way back, I reassured her, the words flowing like a promise tinged with uncertainty, but fate had decided to unravel even more. Just as I began to form a plan, one final bombshell erupted in the form of a phone ring echoing from my pocket, a message from Ethan's contact, a name that sent my heart into a tailspin, Vanessa. And with that single notification, I could feel our lives pivoting yet again, sliding us closer to an unknown they had yet to uncover. The air was thick with tension, the kind that clings to your skin and wraps around your chest, squeezing tighter with each moment we lingered in this strange reality. I could feel the weight of uncertainty pressing down on us as I stood there, grappling with the ominous implications of that name Vanessa. I didn't need to read the message to know her reputation preceded her, and with it, a history I had hoped to leave behind. Mom. Lily's voice was a fragile thread in the chaos. What's wrong? Who's Vanessa? Just a name, sweetheart, I blurted out, masking my concerns with a smile I didn't quite feel. But my attempt at reassuring her faltered under the urgency of the moment, as if the universe itself conspired against us. I felt Ethan's eyes on me, a mixture of worry and confusion etched across his face. Tommy's menacing aura simmered, intervening my thoughts. What does she want? He spat, swinging his glare toward us. Before I could respond, any sense of calm shattered into a million shards as Goose, still trembling from his earlier encounter, tried to rise to his feet. His determination struck me as both brave and reckless. I can't let her take me away again, he said, his voice rising with panic, reaching for something ungraspable within the turmoil. Goose, you're not going anywhere, I said firmly, stepping closer, grounding him with the assurance I wished I could offer to my daughter. We'll figure this out together. But the storm within him began to brew again, playfully taunting our nascent hope. She has a hold on me, I can feel it. If she knows him here, his voice trailed off, lost in a labyrinth of fear, while my pulse quickened. What had changed so drastically for Goose? It was as if a small ember of hope flickered to life just as it was threatened with extinguishment, and I watched helplessly. And then, like a dam breaking, a wave of emotion surged through the crowd, morphing the theater from a sanctuary of warmth into an icy cell of unease. The murmurs turned to questioning, and the confused looks of the audience morphed into something darker. I could sense people shifting, drawing away from us, as if fear were contagious. Get him out of here, Goose, Tommy shouted. You're dragging everyone into this mess. No. Lily cried, her small voice piercing through the chaos. She placed herself between Goose and Tommy, defiant as a tiny storm amongst thunderheads. He's not a mess. He's my friend, Lily, get back. I stepped forward, desperation clawing at my throat. But she held her ground, eyes blazing with a bravery that seeped into the very fabric of my heart. You can't just leave him, we have to help. In her stance, I saw flickers of what I wished I could be, a beacon of light amidst the impending disaster, urging for connection when fear suggested we retreat into isolation. Lily, I said softly, my voice an ember, it's okay. We will help him, but you need to trust me right now. The dim light of the theater shifted, shadows dancing in wild patterns as murmurs converted into electric whispers. And just like that, amidst the heaviness of the moment, an unexpected kindness blew me. A couple nearby, two elderly women, reached out, offering handkerchiefs, their faces etched with shared empathy. Take this, one of them said, her voice a soothing anodyne. It's going to be all right. Their gesture was small, yet it pierced through the weight descending upon us like a soft reminder that even in chaos, humanity could shimmer in unexpected places. Who does she think she is? Tommy growled, glancing at the women, as if they were disrespecting his authority. They're just trying to help. I snapped back, the frustration rising like bile in my throat. You need to calm down. If Goose is in trouble, we need to be united, not divided. The tension throbbed palpably, and the flicker of hope I had held began to sputter as new worries tugged relentlessly at my heart. What would happen if Vanessa did find Goose? What did she hold over him that could bring him to such a desperate state? The walls felt as if they were closing in, and I took a steadying breath, pinning my conviction on the golden thread of our shared humanity, that unseen tapestry binding us all. Suddenly, a loud crash reverberated from behind us, drawing everyone's focus. A man burst through the lobby doors, his presence almost magnetic, a stark contrast to the confusion brewing in the theater. He exuded confidence, an air of authority that made the crowd part instinctively. I recognized him as a private investigator, known in town for his relentless pursuit of lost causes, and a deep sense of dread coiled tightly in my gut. "What's going on?" he asked, piercing through the noise, his eyes locking onto mine, and I felt as if he already understood more than he let on. "Ethan, what have you gotten yourself into this time?" Ethan stepped forward, as the chaos pulsed around us, its rhythm carrying uncertainty. "We need to talk, now." With a start, I realized the implications hanging unaddressed like a noose above Goose. Suddenly, I could no longer tell how deep this trouble ran. The threads connecting our lives grew more tangled, and those delicate moments of hope I dared to weave now threatened to unravel completely. As we held each other's gaze, me, Ethan, Tommy, and the others who coalesced into this tenuous circle, I understood then that the world had shifted in ways I had yet to acknowledge. The mere presence of Vanessa had not just unsettled Goose, but it had unfurled a darker story waiting to be told in whispers, shadowed by the chaos of our interactions. My heart raced as the implications spun wildly in my mind. Did Ethan know something I didn't? Was he embroiled deeper than he ever let on? Then, the ringing in my pocket surged into a faint hum once more, pulling me from the uncertainty into the storm awaiting our tangled fates. "Just answer it," Ethan urged gently, apparently sensing that we were on the brink of uncovering something monumental. And just like that, as I summoned the courage to uncover the looming truth, I felt the ground shift beneath me, reminding me that we were yet on the boundary of something bigger, one last discovery waiting to unravel, threatening to ensnare us all. The theater stood silent for a heartbeat, the tension so thick it felt like it could be sliced with a knife. I hadn't anticipated the chaos that would ensue with one little name that stirred shadows I thought I could keep buried. The ringing in my pocket pulsed again, insistent, grounding me in this tangled mess. I pushed back the urge to answer, to flee into the comfort of anonymity. Tommy's glare bore into me, questioning and demanding answers I didn't have. Ethan's expression held a mix of concern and urgency that pulled at my heart. I cast a glance at Lily, who remained resolute, her tiny fists balled up at her sides. In her steadfastness, I saw a mirror reflecting my worst fears, tangled with the steadfast hope that perhaps we could navigate this storm together. "Please, just answer it," Ethan urged again, his voice a soft current beneath the chaos that swirled around us. Taking a deep breath, I finally drew the phone from my pocket, my fingers trembling as I pressed it to my ear. The heartbeats of anticipation thudded in my ears, raw and palpable. "Hello, is this Clara?" The voice on the other end was smooth, barbed with a hint of amusement. I recognized it immediately. It was Vanessa, her confidence echoing like a siren call through the confusion. "Yes," I said, the word feeling like an incantation, conjuring a force that could either save or condemn me. "I hear you found yourself in quite the predicament," she said, dripping with a strange mix of mockery and delight. "How fascinating. I was just about to visit an old friend, a friend named Goose." Panic flashed through my heart, and I could feel the eyes of the small crowd around me sharpening. The way she said his name, laced with ominous intent, made my breath hitch. When had she gained this twisted hold on Goose? "What do you want from him?" I demanded, my voice momentarily finding strength. "Why, Clara, isn't it obvious? He belongs with me. After everything I've done to help him, he's just forgotten what he really is." Her condescending tone raked at my insides like nails on a chalkboard. "Helped him? You took him away." I spat back, bitterness coating my words. But I showed him a world he couldn't resist. A taste of freedom, of power. It's intoxicating, don't you think? I couldn't contain the shudder that ran through me, a revelation blossoming like a dark flower. Goose was lost not just to Vanessa, but to his own allure, seduced by shadows cast in bright lights. It tore at my heart. He's not yours to play with. I seethed, trembling with rage and fear. Play? Sweetheart, this is about much more than playing. But don't worry, I'm not calling to discuss that fascinating little game of ours. Her tone shifted, becoming almost sultry. This is merely a friendly warning. If you want to keep that little one of yours safe. At the mention of Lily, my pulse quickened. I turned to look at her, and she instinctively moved closer, raising her arms to shield Goose. What do you want? I said again, more of a plea than defiance now. Meet me. Tonight. At the docks. 8 o'clock. Alone. Her voice faded into an echo, trailing off just as abruptly as it had come. I was left with the unsettling silence of the crowd, buzzing with concern, energy, and fear that I lowered the phone, my hand shaking, panic swirling like a storm in my chest. What was that about? Ethan's voice felt distant, as if I were submerged in water, fighting my way to the surface. She wants to meet me, I whispered. Every letter twisted like a dagger within me. At the docks. At 8. Are you insane? You can't go alone. Tommy interjected, his voice tinged with alarm. I have to, I insisted, the words escaping before I could rein them in. In that instant, clarity surged through the fog of panic, but not as a solution. It felt closer to resignation. She has something over Goose, something that runs deeper than any of us understand. If I don't confront her, I don't know what she'll do. Ethan held my gaze, his eyes searching mine for understanding, for assurance, for hope. Clara, we could know. I interjected vehemently. It has to be me. I can't risk what she might do to Lily or anyone else. The thought of Vanessa's contemptuous laughter echoed in my mind, and I knew that she would exploit my fears without hesitation. Lily grasped my hand, her tiny fingers trembling, a flicker of fear staining her bright eyes. Mom, don't go. She's bad. I can feel it, I promised that in that moment. I wished desperately to shield her from this ugly truth, from the reality that shadows sometimes bore the weight of unspeakable pain. But as I looked into her earnest gaze, I couldn't help but feel how her innocence danced precariously on the edge of our looming fate. You'll be all right, sweetheart. I promise, I whispered, though my heart didn't believe the mantra I offered. As more questions flooded my mind, darkness wrapped itself around me, cocooning me in uncertainty. The vibrant colors of possibility dulled into shades of gray, and I knew I had just taken a step closer to confronting the chaos that had been building for too long. The weight of the moment pressed down harder, the implications of my impending meeting pushing me towards an unknown abyss. Then, Tommy broke the oppressive silence, his voice trembling with a mix of resolve and fear. I won't let you go alone, Clara. No matter what it takes, we'll figure this out together. His words infused a glimmer of warmth within the suffocating fear, but just as quickly, another crashing reality emerged, rearing its head amid our collective dread. The ground beneath us shook, a rumbling echo followed by frantic murmurs sweeping through the audience. A harsh scream pierced the air, reverberating through the chaos, only to be choked short, crushed under the weight of something dark and monstrous gathering strength. What had we unintentionally unleashed? The theater, once a semblance of safety, felt like a collapsing world beneath my feet. The glimmer of hope that sparkled in my heart dimmed, and I caught glimpses of uncertainty dancing behind hidden corners, waiting to devour us whole. Mom, I'm scared, Lily's voice broke through, scraping against the rising tide of panic swelling inside me. Then, as I pressed my hand against the small of her back, steadying both of us, a flicker of movement caught my eye, a shadow slipping from behind the curtain. And in that heartbeat of revelation, I realized we might not be the only ones caught in Vanessa's web. Someone was watching. The lights dimmed, and with it came an eerie stillness that seized the air. The murmur of gasps and confusion thrummed through the audience like a distant storm. My heart raced, pushing the weight of fear higher, making my chest tight as I turned towards the shadow creeping from behind the curtain. I was on the edge of a precipice, teetering between duty and dread, and yet the instinct to protect Lily surged stronger than any uncertainty. Stay close, I whispered, almost lost in the rising commotion. My grip tightened around her small hand, and I saw her nod, Her eyes wide but fierce, the figure revealed itself a gaunt man with unkempt hair and a jacket that hung loosely on his frame. Its unsettling familiarity pushed through the thick fog of realization. It was Morris, the stage manager known for his tight-lipped demeanor, and yet hidden beneath that demeanor was a wealth of secrets too heavy for a single man to bear. His presence crackled like static, warning of unspooled tension. "Clara," he rasped, his voice strained, as he approached us with urgency. "You need to leave. Now." "Why? What's going on?" I demanded, my mind racing. The looming threat of Vanessa shoved up against my heart, but Morris' fear struck a parallel chord within me that deepened my anxiety. "A storm is coming, one far worse than you think. She's not just playing games anymore. They're trapped in her pull, Clara, and if you don't act soon, everything could fall apart," he breathed, glancing behind him as though expecting something to lunge from the shadows. "Who's trapped?" I asked, searching the depth of his wild eyes. "What do you mean?" But before Morris could respond, the ground shook again with a violent tremor that reverberated through the very walls of the theater, sending a trail of panic through the audience. Screams erupted, mingling with the cracking sounds that echoed above us. The thick drapes fluttered, agitated by a draft that felt more like a warning. Ethan pushed closer, keeping his eyes on Morris, seeking answers. "What are you hiding? We need to know whatever's going on. We can face it together." "Goose," Morris spat, eyes wide with fear. "He doesn't understand how deep the waters run with Vanessa. If you don't act swiftly, he'll be lost forever in those depths." The docks, the fulcrum point of it all, the name hit like a stone dropped into a still pond, sending ripples of dread coursing through me. "What do you mean by that? What does the docks have to do with anything?" Before he could explain, the light flickered once more, then vanished, plunging us into shadow. The collective gasp of the audience morphed into a cacophony of chaos. In the darkness, I felt Lily tremble beside me, each shiver sinking with the uncertainty in my heart. "Clara, we can't stay here," Ethan pressed, stepping closer to me, the warmth of his presence a fuel against the encroaching darkness. Just then, a sharp crack resonated through the theater as the chandelier swung precariously above the audience, its crystals threatening to shatter against the chaos swirling beneath. Without thinking, I stepped protectively in front of Lily, just as the glint of danger caught my eye. A slanting beam was teetering dangerously, pinning everyone under its impending threat. "Morris, get everyone out. Now!" I shouted, urgency clawing at my throat. In that instant, he nodded sharply and darted towards the terrified crowd. I turned back to Ethan, urgency pouring from my voice. "If Goose is at the docks, then we need to find him. We can't let Vanessa drag him deeper into whatever abyss she's conjured. He doesn't know what he's doing, and if we don't act." "I know," Ethan interrupted, his gaze steady despite the terror around us. "But we can't just leave Lily behind. She's scared, that I know she is. But she needs to realize that safety and action come hand in hand." "Well, be all right, Lily," I turned, forcing a reassuring smile that felt more like a desperate hope. "Trust me." As the frantic energy surged around us, I could feel the moment drawing closer, the clock ticking down to our fateful rendezvous at the docks. With each heartbeat, the weight of my decision wrapped tighter around me like a chain. "Clara, I won't let you go alone," Ethan insisted, determination coloring his voice. But just then, a bright flash broke through the chaos. The auditorium door crashed open, and a tall figure emerged, silhouetted against the tumult outside. I squinted through the haze, recognition striking me like lightning. It was Jacob, the enigmatic billionaire, with a presence so compelling it felt impossible to grapple with. "Stop!" he shouted, striding towards us. "You don't understand what's unfolding here. The tenebrous lengths Vanessa will go to are cumulative. It's not just about Goose anymore. She has plans that stretch far beyond any of our reach. There's no time for riddles." I shouted back, frustration rising. "If you know where Goose is, you need to tell us now." Jacob's eyes locked onto mine, and in that moment, something flickered, a shared understanding of shadows, secrets, and choices that bound us more than either of us cared to admit. "I can't tell you everything, but I can help. Vanessa's world is built on the broken trust of others. But to stop this, we must confront not just her but what she has amassed. The docks are only the beginning. Time slipped through my fingers, racing toward a moment I couldn't just mentally prepare for. Just how deep was this perilous game? I could feel the weight of the choices pressing down on me as Lily tugged on my arm, her apprehensive eyes searching for clarity amidst the burgeoning storm. What's it going to be, Clara? Will you take the chance? Jacob's question hung heavy in the air, electrifying the atmosphere around us. That we have to go now, I whispered, feeling the claws of darkness inch ever closer. At that moment, I realized I stood at a precipice vying for every ounce of hope. It would take more than just willpower, we would need a strategy steeped in trust and unity. But as we began to move toward the exit, another tremor, a stronger one this time, shook the foundations. And then, just as uncertainty surged like a tide, an unsettling noise echoed through the space, a sound both chilling and familiar, reverberating through the chaos. "Clara," said a voice from the darkened corner, thick with familiarity and dread. "It's time to connect the dots." "Goose." The voice lingered in the air, a ghost resurrected from the shadows. I turned slowly, heart thudding in my chest, dread pooling at the base of my stomach. There he was, outlined against the chaos, a figure so familiar that every instinct screamed for me to look away, to detach myself from whatever madness was about to unfold. "Goose?" I whispered, disbelief coating my words. He stepped forward, shaking off the haze of fear that had enveloped the theater. His face was pale, lined with worry and confusion, the spark of mischief usually bright in his eyes replaced by shadows deep enough to drown in. "Clara, you don't understand," he began, but the tremor in his voice made it clear that he was no longer the carefree spirit I had known. The weight of Vanessa's grasp had altered him, turned him into a harbinger of bad news that I had never anticipated receiving. "That we have to get out of here," Ethan interjected, glancing at the erratic chandelier above us, its wobbling crystals like the ticking of a clock counting down to disaster. But Goose didn't flinch at the underlying panic. Instead, he seemed drawn to May's eyes, wide and pleading. "No, Clara, you can't leave yet. Not without knowing the truth." "The truth about what?" I asked, the urgency of time mingling with the chaos of my emotions. Goose had always been the catalyst for light, yet now he stood before me offering only shadows. "About Vanessa," he said, his voice steadying as he spoke. "She's not just pulling strings from the sidelines, she's attacking from the inside. You all think she wants Goose." He paused, long enough for dread to coil tighter in my mind. "But she wants something darker, something that could tear this entire community apart." "Goose, we don't have time for riddles," I snapped, frustration spilling over the edges of fear. "You need to tell us where she is. We're not leaving without answers." His look darkened, and in that moment, something shifted between use and understanding, fraught with tension. "I can't say where she is, but I know what she's planning. One of your own connected to her, has to become the key to undoing everything she has wrought. If I don't confront her, everything we care about will be lost." A chill slithered down my spine. "What do you mean?" "One of us, someone she's targeting," Goose clarified, taking a faltering step closer, "and that someone is you, Clara. You unknowingly became a part of this web the moment you showed up to the dance. Right now, she thinks she has the upper hand, but she's mistaken." I felt the world around me tilt, as though the foundation we stood on could crumble beneath the weight of his words. "You're saying she wants to pull me into her game? Why would she do that?" "Because you're not just an outsider, you're a part of the very fabric she aims to unravel," he replied, desperation lining his voice. "And once she pulls you in, it becomes harder to escape, Clara." Ethan's urgent cry broke through the fog of fear. "We need to decide what to do. We can't just stand here. Morris is trying to get everyone out." "We could join him." "No," I interjected, fear battling with an innate desire to help. "If what Goose says is true, running may not be an option. We have to confront this, and we have to do it together. Trust me, Ethan." But the heart that gave me strength was also restless, thumping uncertainty deep in my chest. Would the confrontation drive us apart or draw us closer in ways I could hardly imagine? "Clara." Jacob's booming voice pulled me back, steady and commanding. Every second wasted is a second closer to her victory. We have each other's backs, but we cannot let fear dictate our distance from this fight. The docks, if that is the fulcrum point, then we prepare for a stand. The air thickened, laden with dread and anticipation. Goose took a step back, visibly torn between fear and determination. I reached for him. Together then. Whatever challenge Vanessa throws at us next, we face it as one unit. A tremor rattled again through the theater, nerves tightening as applause mingled with chaos, faint echoes of the last performance ringing in my ears. Goose, you're right about one thing. Vanessa will think she has the upper hand. But she doesn't know who she's up against, I said, pulling together whatever strength I could find. My hand reached for Ethan, the grip between us tightening, becoming a tether to the impending storm I sensed on the horizon. As we moved toward the exit, the weight of impending confrontation loomed over us. The darkness swirled around, making it hard to see what lay ahead. But in the faces of my friends and the resolute presence of Goose, I sensed a flicker, a tiny ember of hope in a void far too deep. But just as we turned, a piercing scream sliced through the air, one that cut through the din and resonated in the very core of the chaos. I whipped around to see Morris stumbling back into the auditorium, panic-stricken and gasping, "Clara! It started! She's found us!" Hope flickered out like a candle in the wind, and in that moment, I understood that the fight was not merely for survival, it had somehow transformed into something almost sacrificial. How far would I go to protect those I loved from the darkness clawing closer? No longer was it just the matter of defeating a villain, it was about unearthing the light hidden within the shadows, a light that could either save us or dissolve us completely. The scream echoed through the theater, ricocheting off the walls, pulling at the very fundamental threads of reality we relied upon. Morris' panic-stricken face was the last thing I had expected to see, yet the urgency in his wide eyes cast a heavy pall over the hope we had managed to kindle moments before. "What do you mean she's found us?" Ethan stepped forward, all bravado eclipsed by the seriousness of the situation. Morris breathed heavily, raking a hand through his hair as if trying to grasp at fleeting thoughts that were morphing into nightmares. "Vanessa. She brought her followers. There's a whole group, and they're spreading out to block the exits," he stammered, desperation creeping into each word. "They're looking for you, Clara. It's a trap," and we walked right into it. Frantic glances bounced between us, but it was Goose's startled expression that held my attention. His brow furrowed, and for a split second, I thought I could glimpse the depth of anguish buried beneath the surface. "We have to stay calm. We can't let panic consume us," he urged, his eyes darting beyond the safe confines of our huddle. "Calm?" I spat indignantly, a whirlwind of emotions roiling within me. "How do we stay calm with her literal henchmen surrounding us? Because panicking won't help us fight back," Goose replied, an edge to his voice that mirrored my turmoil. And yet, despite the rising tide of dread inside me, there was still something noble in the way he stood, trying to bridge fear with hope, urging us toward an escape plan. "We need to stick together. A united front is our only advantage." "United front?" Jacob echoed, his fists clenched at his sides. "She already knows what we care about. So what do? Throw ourselves at her mercy?" "Not mercy," I snapped, inserted against the swirling cyclone of emotions. "We fight if Goose is right. We confront her while we still can. We can't let her dictate our every move." "Then let's get to the docks," Ethan said, determination creeping back into his voice. "We'll never survive this if we don't meet her head-on." Just as we turned, the theater doors trembled against sudden force pounding coming from the other side, and a low, mocking laugh floated in from the shadows. "Oh, sweet Clara, did you think you could run away before the fun began?" Vanessa's voice was laced with derision, sending an icy spear of fear straight through my heart. "Follow me," Morris commanded, spinning around and charging for an adjacent passageway, fear propelling us forward. As we fled through the corridors of the theater, shadows enveloped us, closing in on all sides. I could feel Vanessa's presence lurking, like a dark cloud that oppressed every breath I took. Goose and I lagged slightly behind, every hurried glance exchanged heavy with unspoken words, our connection strained yet unfaltering. "That if we can just reach the docks," he murmured, almost as if trying to convince himself. We'll have a chance to regroup and plan our next move, but the sudden sound of shattering glass punctured our escape attempt. Morris halted, his body turning rigid as he pointed toward a corridor veering away from the main path. "We can't go back," he called, an undercurrent of panic tainting his voice. "Then we need to keep moving," I urged, clutching Goose's hand as we dashed forward. Hope, a flickering, tenuous flame was all that anchored me. But trust was another matter, and with each frantic step, I could feel the fear that had settled in my chest start to wither my resolve. Morris led us into a cramped storage area, echoes of muffled chaos filtering in from outside. All the while, I could feel Goose's warmth beside me, but uncertainty crept in alongside it. Called I truly trust him when every fiber of me screamed that deception could lurk just below the surface. "It's just a temporary hiding spot," Morris said, panting as he pressed his back against the door, guarding us against the encroaching threat. "Temporary?" Jacob scoffed, crossing his arms as his eyes darted between each of us. "What do we do next? Count our breaths while we wait for Vanessa's game to end? Maybe it's time to rethink the terms of this." "Game," I said, voice trembling, fueled by defiance as frustration pushed at the corners of my mind. "What if we were to turn the tables on her, but how?" Ethan asked, his brow knotted with uncertainty. "Think about it." The adrenaline coursing through us nudged my thoughts into clarity. "We use her strategies against her. She knows us all too well. But she might underestimate the power of collective greed, a spirit that can't be extinguished so easily. As each heartbreaking second ticked by, I began to formulate a plan, hasty but rising from a well of strength that had seemingly pooled within each of us. Light could possibly break through this darkness if we dared to reach for it. Before I could finalize my thoughts, the door crashed open, throwing us into a tableau of chaos. As we stumbled back, the adrenaline pulsing through my veins momentarily dulled the edges of fear. A figure dressed in shadows loomed at the threshold, eyes glittering with malice, and that was when I caught a glimpse of the chilling marks on their arms, a symbol I recognized all too well, one that tied back to Goose, to the very family that should have sheltered him, Clara. Goose's voice trembled, fear flickering as he stepped back, realization dawning in his expression. They found the mark. In that moment, with dread flooding through me, I understood that Vanessa was no longer simply targeting me, she was pulling the very fabric of our ties into her sinister plot. The light I had felt so close seemed to flicker. Was I unwittingly sealing our fates with my own defiance? As figures spilled into the room, I grasped Goose's arm tighter, heart racing, knowing that this was only the bleeding edge of a much deeper darkness set in motion. Would sacrifice be the outcome, or could we discover hidden valleys of strength, tethered together through love and desperation? Hope flickered uncertainly, but time was running out, and before the shadows swallowed us whole, I knew I had to make a choice, one that could unravel everything, propelling us into a fight against not only Vanessa, but against the very essence of betrayal itself. In the suffocating darkness of that tiny storage room, fear wrapped around me tighter than ever. It was strange, really, how quickly false safety can be shattered as if it were glass. The figures advancing toward us were more than just shadows, they were manifestations of the very fears I had tried to shield Lily from, and every instinct in me screamed to run, to protect, to stop this spiraling chaos that threatened not only my daughter but everyone I held dear. "Mom." Lily's small voice cut through the chaos like a knife, and I turned to find her face pale, but her wide eyes shone with the light of bravery I didn't possess. "We can't let them get you." I knelt down, grasping her shoulders with shaking hands, trying to ignite that spark of courage I knew resided inside her. "I won't let them take us, Lily. I promise." But even as those words left my mouth, I felt the tremor of uncertainty creeping back in. Inside that storage space, we were cornered, no outlet from this mounting dread except to confront it. "Let's think logically," Jacob interjected, glancing back at the doorway with a poised determination that commanded the attention of all present. "If we can cause a distraction, maybe we can make it to the docks before they can mobilize fully." "Distraction?" I echoed, already the wheels of an idea churning in my mind. We had to act quickly before every crevice of our hope was snuffed out by the very hands we were trying to escape. Morris, still pressed against the door, met my gaze with renewed fervor. "We have to split up. One of us needs to be a decoy, to draw them away from the exit." Fear surged through me at the thought. You can't be serious. That's too dangerous. But what choice do we have? Goose's voice broke through the haze of panic. We can't just stay here waiting to be caught. If we want to save Lily, we must act. Without thinking, I felt my heart leap at the thought. I'll do it, I said almost instinctively. I hated the very notion of it, but my instinct to protect her burned brighter than my own fear. I saw the worried expressions of my team reflected in the echo of the dim light around us, and just for a heartbeat, I felt the heaviness of every choice resting on our shoulders. Clara, no, Ethan interjected sharply. You can't be serious. I won't risk you like that. I can't let you take the fall for this. I shot back, my voice a mix of urgency and heartbreak. If it comes down to saving Lily, I'd do anything. I'll provide the diversion. You all head for the docks and save yourselves. Don't be a fool, Morris warned, stepping forward in protest. You don't need to play the martyr here. Maybe not, I replied, trembling yet resolute. But I refuse to be the anchor weighing you all down. You need to believe in this. We need to protect each other. Lily's eyes glistened with tears, wide and fearful. Mom, please don't go. I promise it'll be okay, I whispered, yearning to etch those words into her heart before the realities of our lives pushed us further apart. I love you, Lily, and I'll be waiting. I wiped a tear away, and in that tender motion, I thought back to every dance she had performed, all filled with grace and ambition. That little spirit who danced allowed me to risk it all. In that moment, I fought to find the same courage that had fueled her. I'll lead them away, I reiterated, forcing a steadiness into my voice that I knew my fearless daughter could lean upon. You all take the opposite route to the docks and ensure Goose gets out safely. Ethan stepped forward, his eyes fierce but edged with uncertainty. No way am I letting you face them alone, Clara. Well, cover for each other. Fight this together. The thought unfurled in my heart, yet with the elegant threads of it lay risks that threatened to undermine us all. Before I could respond, Goose's eyes held mine with an urgency I couldn't ignore. Clara, if we can't separate ourselves, we'll be caught in a trap. If you trust us, we can do this. It was the conviction in his voice that struck me deeply. I knew then that every person here could be a light in the darkness. Okay. But we have to split and run on. My signal. Then let's do it now, Jacob said quietly, determination etched on his face. As the seconds ticked by, it felt like an eternity stretched across the canvas of chaos. My heart thudded in my chest, pounding harder than I had ever felt before. My breaths came quick and shallow, but my resolve remained steadfast as I turned to my daughter one last time. Remember, Lily, I said softly, kneeling before her. Dance as if nothing can bind you. You are stronger than you know. The tears spilling from her eyes felt like molten fire grazing my heart, but I could see her spark dimly flickering, her belief igniting once more. I will, Mom. I promise. She whispered back, her voice a breathless melody of hope even in the midst of despair. With the briefest of glances shared between everyone, we gained our resolve. My heart quickened alongside the thumping pulse in my temples as I counted down silently. 3, 2, 1. Now, I surged forward, racing toward the door just as it burst open, shadows spilling in. My heart pounded louder than the chaos erupting around me. Over here. I yelled, letting instinct drive me to lure them away. From the edges of my peripheral vision, I saw those downcast figures turn, drawn in by my desperation, my voice echoing through the chaos. I'm right here, and just as I had hoped, the surge of bodies caved, a tidal wave of shadow flooding our previous hiding spot, but as the figures collapsed in, I ran into the blind spots of the alleys, maneuvering them back toward the shadows where the spotlight wouldn't dare shine. Every pulse of adrenaline propelled me forward deeper into the chaos, yet beneath the tidal weight of the fear was the warmth of love, a love that pushed me onward with every stride. My heart echoed in my ears, fear clawing, but I could feel the strength of my team surging ahead toward deeper safety, and every ounce of my being clung to the hope that the docks would mark the turning point. And then it happened. The clash of bodies drove me to a halt as I turned a corner. Caught between the barrier of light and dark, panic speared through me, I landed in a tangle of bodies, lost amongst the frightened and defiant members of Vanessa's minions, those who sought to trap me. Hold her! A voice shouted, powerful and menacing. No. Don't you dare! I won't let you! I screamed from the depths of fear. Clarity came rushing back, the moment crystallizing in my mind, connecting the tendrils together in an elegant, spiraling dance of defiance. It was time to push through, harness the darkness, and wield it against Vanessa's chaos. As they swarmed closer, I scrambled for leverage amid the panic. Fueled by desperation, I broke free of their grasp, my feet striking toward the escape. In one moment of collision, I flung myself sideways, searching for another way. And there it was, a glimmer of light spilling around an anchored corner. Pushed by my will to protect those I cherished most, I barreled forward with reckless abandon, but even as I reached the outskirts of that shadowy world, I felt a hand close around my wrist like iron, tightening with every intention I tried to project outward. No! I gasped, twisting against the grip that would have bound me deeper into her web, but I wouldn't let it consume me. With all my strength, I swerved, free from their clutches, the light glinting ahead like an open doorway to salvation. Sprinting closer, I could see the churning water reflecting the night sky. The docks were alive with uncertainty, everything coalescing with each breath I took. I wasn't just running to save myself, I was running to ensure my daughter knew the power of love, and to light the way for those who dared to stand beside me. And then, just like that, I could see the figures I had fought so hard to reach. There was Jacob, Ethan, Morris. They had made it. A surge of hope ignited an unyielding tether connecting me, pulling me closer to the warmth of solidarity. They saw me, and their eyes widened. They rushed towards me, and in that instant, I felt the threads intertwine tighter, the essence of what we had forged growing stronger. But the shadows were undeterred. We won't let you escape. A voice howled behind me, deep timbre of Vanessa breaking through like thunder. I spun, my heart racing in defiance. You don't get to decide who we are. And that's when I felt the power of all those who had shown unwavering support, carving space where once fear had drawn lines. I raised my chin, ready to stand against her darkness despite the overwhelming weights that threatened to crush everything I believed in. Together, I shouted, casting my gaze over the thrumming tide, and with that resonance of strength pooling around us, we surged forward, moving as one, unbroken, a force of nature. The shadows recoiled as we advanced to confront the heart of Vanessa's chaos, a tangible testament that love could shatter the deepest of bonds and light could still flourish, even when darkness clawed at the edges of our resolve. Lily was rooted in my heart, as were the others. The tendrils of hope tightened as we navigated the chaos together, united under a fierce pulse. They would never have us, as long as we chose to fight back against her burning shadows, and even as we crashed against the looming threat of uncertainty, intertwined, connected in ways that propelled us outward. I knew whatever happened next, we would emerge from the ashes of chaos and emerge onto the shores of our future, ignited anew. In that moment, I realized that love is not a shield, it's a bridge. And together, we would reach the other side. In the cacophony of our hearts, a single line burned brightly, a whisper carried upon the winds of fate echoing through the maelstrom: we are enough.